Hello and welcome back to the class. Today's topic is endgames opposition. Well, what does opposition mean in chess? How can we use opposition to win games of chess? Or if we are defending, how can we use the concept of opposition to draw a game of chess? And finally, how to gain opposition? These will be the topic of today's discussion. So let us start with the first question. What is an opposition? You might have heard in many places the word opposition, right? Usually if you watch televisions or through internet, the word opposition usually means in politics anybody who is opposing you. That means your opposite group. Okay, there is a ruling party, there is an opposition party, they keep on fighting each other. That is opposition in politics. But in chess, opposition has totally different meaning. Okay, and through practical examples, let's find out what opposition exactly means in chess. Okay, let's go through the first position where white is trying to promote his pawn and win. And black will try to draw the game by stalemate defense. Okay, I hope all of you can recollect what stalemate defense is. And one thing to note is that when we learnt about the stalemate defense, we also learnt that the defender, that is black in this case, his king should stay as close to the pawn as possible. Okay, and as close to the white king and pawn as possible. But in this situation, the king is slightly far away from the pawn. So what should white do? He should try to advance his king ahead of the pawn to take control of blocking squares. For example, the king moves to e5, and if the black king moves here, then our king moves this way, taking control of these squares so that the king cannot defend. And when the king goes back, our king goes ahead, and wherever the king moves, suppose the king moves this direction, again the white king would move to the opposite direction, taking control of these squares first. Now the black king cannot defend, and the white pawn would easily advance thereafter, okay, without any hindrance. So this is white's basic plan. Now let us see how black hinders white's plan. So when white played king e5, the black king should go to e7, and this is opposition in chess. What does opposition mean in chess? Standing opposite to each other, the kings standing opposite to each other. Okay, but that is only the first condition. There are two other conditions which must be fulfilled to make opposition happen. The second condition is both should stand exactly on the same color. Here white's king is standing on black square. The black king should also stand on black square. Only then it is opposition. This position is not opposition, because here black square, white square, so they are different. Only when both kings stand opposite to each other on the same color, then we call opposition. And then who has the opposition, white or black? The player who moves, his opponent has the opposition. That is the third condition. Here, for example, if it's white to play, black will have the opposition. If it is black to play, white will have the opposition. What is the use of opposition? The use of opposition is, our wishes will be fulfilled. For example, black is trying to draw this game. If it is white to move, black has the opposition. And if black has the opposition, black will be easily able to draw the game. How? See, the king will not be able to move further forward. If it goes here, again the king should stand opposite to each other, not allowing the king to go further up. Okay, if the king goes here, this king should stand here, opposite with white to move. So white's king is unable to go further up, and if he advances the pawn, then we already know it's an easy stalemate defense. The king stays as close as possible and it goes straight back, and we have learned it's an easy draw. So opposition is, it's a very simple instance of opposition where the king stands in front of each other on the same color, and whoever moves his opponent has the opposition. Now suppose it is black to play. Now black has two decent moves, it seems. His king can come forward this way, well, yeah, this way, or sorry, the king here, okay. Now the king can come to d7 or the king can come to e7 forward. Now if the king comes to e7 and it's it was black to move, black's king came up, then white would stand in front of the black king and white will claim I have the opposition because it's your move. Now wherever the king goes, the white king will make further inroad. He will go further up, controlling these squares, and he will manage to win the game ultimately, okay, by helping the pawn to advance. So with black to play, king coming up, white gets the opposition. If the king goes this side, again white gets the opposition by standing opposite to the king. If the king goes here, we go here. Again black to play. Wherever the king goes, our king will penetrate, will go in. So this is how with black to play, white manages to win, but not exactly. Now we will be learning a technique by which we can win opposition sometimes. The kings are standing very far from each other. Now before coming close to each other, what black should do, he should wait. And when the white king advances, the black's king will come up accordingly. With white to play, black has the opposition. If the white king comes up this way, black's king would go to this square. So the way for black is simply wait sideways and wait for white to make the move first. Okay, so this is how we gain opposition. So what we have learned, what is an opposition? The uses of opposition. For example, we saw white making the first move, and now black got the opposition and he was able to draw. Now if black made the first move, we saw that we saw that if black made the first move, white got the opposition and white won. But if black waits, he will get the opposition and again he will achieve a draw. So one of the ways of gaining opposition is by waiting. Okay, so this is a very basic and primary lesson for all of you. Now we shall be going through another example of how to gain or win opposition. We just saw that we can wait and let our opponent make the move so that we can get opposition. But here with white to play, white has a waiting move. That means he can push his pawn and then pass the move to black. Now you move your king and we enter. So now since it's black to move, white has the opposition. So this is, sometimes we call it reserve tempo. Tempo means time in Spanish. It's used in chess. The word tempo is very much a part of chess vocabulary. So we say tempo for time in chess. So we have a reserve move at hand. So whenever we need to pass the move to our opponent, we can make this move and then our king can move further up. Okay, so this is how we use opposition to win in chess. Now, just for your revision, let's see whether you can recall what we have learned. There's a small question which you have to solve on your own. In this position, it is black who has the advantage. Why? Black's king is more advanced than the pawn, and he can easily capture white's pawn, while white king cannot defend his pawn. Now, black is trying to he's threatening to play this, win the pawn, and since the king is much ahead of his own pawn, black will be able to win with one pawn. Okay, so that is black's idea. But it's white to move. You have to use the concept of opposition, which you learned just now, to draw the game, to save the game. Think and find out how white can draw from this position, which looks like a losing position. Okay, white played d6. This is fantastic move, and the reason why this is such a nice move is that if white plays this, black will play here, winning the pawn, and if white plays this, black will capture, and white can say, okay, I have the opposition. But black will say, I continue this way, and white will say, I will not allow you to move up. But black will say, I have a reserve tempo, so you have to give way, and my king will enter into your position. Okay, now you cannot play for stalemate defense. Now this is black's idea, and that is why what white should do is, he should advance the pawn to kill the reserve tempo. Now when black captures the pawn, white says, I have the opposition, standing opposite to you. Black says, okay. White again says, I have the opposition. When black moves here, again I say I have the opposition, and black doesn't have that extra move because the pawn has already moved here. So black is unable to get opposition. It's white who has the opposition. There is no reserve tempo, so finally white achieves a draw. Okay, it was maybe slightly more complicated than the previous chapters, but I hope you have learned something about the opposition from this class. Use opposition in your practical games whenever you play end games, and achieve a lot of results with this concept. Goodbye.